Ladies and gentlemen, Capital G here, and welcome to my sort of look back at 2020 in Commander. Happy New Year, by the way, everyone. We made it to 2021 somehow. So let's hope that we see a bit of an upswing, perhaps over the summer. It's going to take time for that vaccine to make its rounds, but once it does, should be back in business for the most part. So yeah, and as you can see, the house is a bit of a disaster. My daughter's first Christmas, and she got spoiled rotten. She won't remember any of it, but she got spoiled rotten, for the record. So today, again, looking at my 20 favorite new commanders of the year, and my 10 least favorite. And just a fun little exercise here. Again, personal opinion. Obviously, with the year that we've had and with how many new commanders that we've gotten, it's hard to, think of ideas for all of them. It's hard to see all of them across the table, especially in my case, since I couldn't really do my webcam magic. So I didn't really get to see a whole lot out there. But, yeah. But at least 20 of my favorites and 10 of my least favorites. And if you don't see your favorite on that list for one reason or another, it's not because they're bad or boring or what have you. It's just because of how good and how many good new commanders we got this year. And if you don't agree with my poopy list when we get to my poopy list, well, there's a comment section. Tell me why. And be honest. It'll be hard to turn me around on those 10, but before we talk about the 10 bad, not so great commanders, let us look at my 20 favorites. And it's all listed in alphabetical order, by the way. So in alphabetical order, my 20 favorites, starting with Akiri Fearless Voyager. An interesting take on the equipment commander. Rather than wanting to swing specifically at one player, this one wants to swing at 2 or 3 players if possible. And why is that? Because it lets us draw cards. Boros got a lot of great commanders to generate card advantage this year. Akiri, I think, is the best overall because not only does it bring everybody's life totals down, but again, draws you probably the most cards of any of them. And the fact that you can spend white mana and unattached equipment to protect your creatures is something special. The other commanders, of course, don't have that same level of protection, and that's what makes Akiri stand out from the rest of the, Boros card advantage warriors that we've gotten this year. Moving on to, I don't know if you pronounce it as Belbi or Belb. Is it one syllable or two? Could go either way. But this 2-color commander, black and green, Belgari, brings group hug to a color not really known for sharing. It says here at the beginning of each player's post combat main phase, my apologies, that player adds 2 colorless mana for each of your opponents who lost life this turn. So it's got that group hug aspect, because yes, your opponents can deal damage to each other and generate extra mana. However, in your case, you're running things like the Black Shrine, or the, you're running cards that make it so that your opponents lose life on your turn. Ill-Gotten Inheritance is a good example. Just at the beginning of your upkeep, deal 1 damage to each of your opponents. So, all of a sudden, you're dealing that 1 point of damage that you need to each of your opponents for free. And then you start your second main phase with 6 extra colorless mana. Powering out big Eldrazi or humongous creatures of some sort, or big black X spells. Very, very interesting commander. Very interesting design. Love this one. Dargo, the Shipwrecker. Great, great combo potential, especially if you manage to, possess a Phyrexian Altar. The idea here, of course, is that you want to sacrifice enough things so that you reduce Dargo's cost to single red. Cast them for that single red and just swing. Or if you happen to have your altar out, you can actually sacrifice enough things to bring Dargo's cost to 1 red, cast Dargo, sacrifice him, and recast him for only a single red because his sacrifice would get counted towards the future castings that turn. So yeah, a very dangerous combo commander here, believe it or not. It looks like a 7/5 trampling beater, and you can play it that way if you like. But the fact of the matter is, this is a combo piece, and having partner, pair it with Blackbeard aristocrat strategies, pair it with another red commander just to make your deck that much thinner. Rogue Rock, I think his name is, would be a good one because that's a free creature that you can cast for 0 mana and then sack off to make Dargo cheaper. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do with him. Gen, probably one of the favorites of the year. I've done a deck on Gen, and I did have an interesting comment on that video. Someone was like, "Oh, thank you. I did not know if I wasn't," because they weren't sure if you could sacrifice or return enchantment creatures, which most Gen decks don't seem to run. They might run 1 or 2, but they don't put a focus on it. For example, the same way my list had. Non-creature enchantments are definitely harder to remove, but the enchantment creatures I find are powerful enough to run and to try and recur, because it's hard to get enchantments into your graveyard naturally. So having your enchantment creatures block and then Gen brings them back, that's one way to do it. But still, best flavor text of any commander in my opinion. Any apprentice with a spellbook and 2 sticks can churn out a fireball. This is different. This is art. And yes, because these are not Mardu is not a natural enchantment focused color. So just the fact that we have this now, something that's actually made for Mardu enchantments, it's something completely new. And I was definitely challenged by building the Gen deck. And there's only upside. There's going to be new enchantments in these colors every set. Gen stock can only go up. Speaking of commanders whose stock can only go up, Inez, the Gale Force. Perfect home for our Stormcrows, of course. Because, hey, it wants to attack with flying creatures, and there's been a lot of Flying Matters commanders that came out this year. But Inez is the only one that really messes with the board. If you manage to attack with 3 flying creatures, you get to rotate permanents around the board on a clockwise fashion. Also having the Anthem effect, just paying mana into it to Anthem your team. It's just a little bit of gravy. So yeah, I love Inez. It's probably if Gen's not my favorite build, then it's Inez. Both Inez and Gen were really fun to put together. Calimax, the Stormcrow, I've also done a deck on this one already. Whenever you cast your first instant spell, if Calimax is tapped, copy the spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. Sweet ability, made for a pretty sweet Storm combo deck. It was a little tricky to put together as the copies themselves don't count towards your Storm count. But there's other ways, of course, to make that work. And it was, again, a lot of fun to put this one together. A little tricky, especially since this color pairing is not really natural for me. So much so that I can't even remember the name of it. The black, the red, sorry, not the black, but the green, the red, and the blue. It's not a natural color combination for me, so it was definitely a lot of fun to put this together. Back to Commander Legends with Kodama of the East Tree. A 6/6, it has reach and it has partner, and it has a lot of combo potential. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with Kodama's ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. So that literally means play a land, play another land. Play a 5-drop, play another 5-drop or less, what have you. Really, really dangerous card if you see this across the table. And also having partner, it is not restricted to just green. Oh boy, very dangerous. Krark the Thumbless. again, does something completely different. It's a 2/2 for 2 in red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you flip a coin, and if you lose the flip, return the spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy the spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, a little disappointed they did not print Krark's thumb in this set, but then again, there wasn't a lot of emphasis on coin flip in the set, so I guess that makes sense. But nonetheless, we have something completely original. The YouTube channel Nitpicking Nerds really loves this commander. They literally rank every commander from bottom to top, and Krark is way up there in their books. And this can definitely do some things that you wouldn't otherwise expect. The partner mechanic also enhances further what this can do. Sticking with red, it's Morag, Fury of Akum. And for the record, red I think is the big winner. Mono red is a big winner for great commanders, if you ask me. There's been a lot of really good ones. And Morag is on this list. A 6/6 for 6 mana seems a little high. But hey, each time a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0. And as a landfall effect, you get additional attack phases, but only after your first main phase. Is it after your first main phase, or no, on any main phase? So it's you attack, you untap, you get an additional combat. Obviously, it's if you have ways of keeping your creatures untapped after the extra combats, even better. If you have ways of playing 2/3 lands, mono red, a little tricky, but if you have ways to do it, do it. The wording is put there specifically so that you can't combo with, say, a Walking Atlas. So you can't just put a land into play with Walking Atlas during a combat step to gain more combats. You have to trigger the landfall during your main phase. But still, if you have your Walking Atlas and you have a land in your hand, you're getting at least 2 additional attack steps. So, really sweet. Larry Nevenral. Again, one of my more recent deck techs on this channel. Amazing commander. This was definitely a lot of fun to build around. Really nasty things you can do with him. And my build is, it's not nice to your opponents, but it's not the meanest it could be. Nevenral's potential is really high. Being able to, blow up the board. You can run a Planeswalker build if you wanted to, because he doesn't destroy Planeswalkers on his way out. You can go infinite combo if you have the right pieces to just continuously make more and more zombies. So much that you can do. I love Nevermind. Becca. Not one of my favorites, honestly, but definitely a popular one amongst the community in general. The player whose turn it is may end the turn, so you can do some political shenanigans if you're not ready to use it on your turn. But for the most part, you're playing like Final Fortune style cards and ending your turn, or you're running cards where it's like you have this until the end of your turn, and then you end your turn prematurely and keep them. So yeah, great combo potential, and I've seen a few decks online, and they are incredible. They look like a blast to play. I don't know if it's fun for the rest of the table, but it's definitely a blast to pilot. Omnam. Omnath, Locus of Creation, our newest 4-color commander. Actually, it's pretty funny. I remember seeing the art, like the box art for Omnath, like the box art for Zendikar Rising, and it's Omnath, and I see the 4-colored arms, and I tell the rest of the guys, "Hey, we're getting a 4-color Omnath," and they're like, "No, they don't print 4-color cards." I'm like, "Well, here's the art. Here's why I'm saying it," and sure enough. Honestly, like the fact that this guy broke standard gives you an idea of how powerful he can be. Don't think it really gets to those levels even in our format commander, but I haven't had a chance to sit across the take my build to a table or sit across from someone else's build yet. So, but there's no question, playing a 4-color deck in our format You cannot go wrong. Riel, the Everwise. Yes, it's another wheel commander, and this one is in Izzet colors. But this is sort of wheel Voltron-esque in a way. You know, filling up your graveyard with instants and sorceries, giving her a huge boost. Being able to draw crazy amounts of cards and perhaps ramp it to a Labman win. A couple different directions you can go with Riel. Very, very interesting commander. Rin and Siri, of course, cat dog, or they say dog cat, it's cat dog. It has to be cat dog. But yes, the cat dog deck, it's only going to get better as they print more cats and more dogs, because they print more cats and more dogs. We're going to see them. So they're going to print more cats, they're going to print more dogs, and Rin and Siri is just going to get better and better. Sethron, Hurlroom General. One of my favorite meme cards of the year, shall we say. I don't think he's a great commander. But any card that pays tribute to Sethron Olive's beard, because that's what it's all about, the second best beard of all time. Sorry, Seth, but Spock's beard is better. He's the only, he can't compete with Spock's beard. But nonetheless, I certainly can't compete with Seth's beard. So, yeah, this is a bit of a meme choice, but hey, I would high five anyone that I sit across the table with this. And while most Minotaurs are not very good yet, hopefully we're going to get a few more in the coming sets. And hey, more Minotaurs. As long as they print more Minotaurs, this is going to have some upside. I don't know how much we'll see, but you never know. Siona, Captain of the Pilots. This uncommon commander in Selesnya colors actually goes infinite, a 2-card infinite combo. So I guess really the only downside is if you see her in the command zone, you know what card to look out for. Other than that, Selesnya Auras, even if you don't necessarily run the combo, the fact that she comes in, looks at 7 cards, and you get to take an aura card from among them, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a creature aura, it could be a player aura. So hey, play some white-green curses. I don't think there's very many of those, but there's a couple. There's not very many, but you could play them. It'd be kind of funny. But the fact that whenever you attach an aura to a creature you control, you get another creature. That's where the combo comes in. Moving on to Togo. I've already done some work with Togo. And hey, play a land, get a rock. Completely new effect. Anyone that invents the rock is definitely going to be an awesome commander in my books. And Togo is it. Can do some serious work, and don't let Togo sit out there too long. Just don't. We've got Yurlok of Scorched Trash. I wasn't really sure how I felt about Yurlok, honestly. I wasn't so sure if the ability was that good, because most properly built commander decks will have instants to play and have a way to spend that bonus mana. But it still gives John the new direction, being able to, mana flood everyone and burn them out that way. And it's definitely a unique effect. Good to see mana burn back, I guess. I don't know, I didn't love or hate mana burn originally, but seeing it weaponized in such a way here is really cool. And my last one, and this is one I don't think a lot of people would think of building, is Zerzoff, Chaos Rider. The last creature, by the way. That's 19 creatures. We do actually have one Planeswalker commander we'll talk about shortly, but Zerzoff. Let's talk about Zerzoff first. Whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, you create a devil, a 1/1 devil token. And it has, when this dies, deal 1 damage to any target. And then whenever one or more devils you control attack one or more players, you and those players each draw a card, then discard a card at random. So I don't know, this is fun. It's not necessarily great or powerful, but this looks like a blast. I haven't had a chance to really brew around this one. Again, nor have I seen anybody play this one. maybe the fact that it's Jumpstart is the reason why I haven't seen anybody play this one, because there's still not enough Jumpstart out there. However, like I said, this one just looks like a blast to play. It looks like you can do some crazy stuff with it. The Planeswalker I've chosen as my 20th favorite commander is Devizzat. He's just really, really good. 5 mana for 4 loyalty Planeswalker. A little below the curve, but hey, for a +2 you get 2 blockers. Or a +1 you can sacrifice a creature and draw some cards. So it gives you creature token generation, it gives you a sack outlet, and that -10 is brutal if you manage to get there and trigger it. Take control of everybody's commanders. That is... It's not game ending, but it's certainly game shattering. Also, by the way, it has partners, so you don't necessarily have to stick to a mono black strategy with Devizzat. Those, of course, are the 20 favorite commanders of 2020. Now let's move on to the 10 not so good ones. Starting with what is far and away my least favorite. Aliros Enraptured. Flavor Win, representing basically replicating Narcissus. But still, this guy comes in the battlefield tapped. He can't untap if you control a Reflection, and he comes into play for a Reflection that's actually a better creature than he is. Seriously, like, what do we do with him? I can't imagine anything that we can do with him in mono blue. Mono blue tokens? Not really. I don't see it. There's nothing we can do with him. Livio the Cacophony. I mean, a 2/1 flyer for 2 mana, that seems good. You can do a Voltron thing, I guess, if you wanted to. But that's really all you're able to do with it. The other text, at the beginning of your end step, exile an enchantment card from your graveyard to create a 2/2 zombie creature token. I don't know. It doesn't seem worth the effort. And honestly, unless you have Ephemia enchanted or equipped with something, when it swings, it dies to Stormcrow. Like, this trades with Stormcrow, of all things. Verna, the Chaos Bloom. Now again, as I've previously mentioned, green, blue, and red are not really my combination. But I will say this. I look at the ability. Like, it's a 4/2 for 3 mana. I don't have a problem with those stats. And as you cascade, you may put a land card from among the exiled cards onto the battlefield tapped. That can whiff. That's the biggest problem with that, is that the advantage he provides is very, very situational. You have to hit cascade and you have to hit a land. And if you don't hit cascade or you don't hit a land, then you're not taking advantage of Verna. You're really not. So, I don't know. Don't like it. Captain Vargas Wrath. I think he'd be pretty decent in the 99 of a partner deck. But as a commander, it says when this attacks, pirates you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Honestly, just in Commander Legends, we've gotten better choices for pirate commanders. Some of them are partners, some of them aren't, but either way, we have much better choices for pirate commanders. This is definitely the bottom of the barrel in terms of commanders. Again, great in the 99 for the pirate deck, but terrible out of the command zone. Gaia of the Endless Dance. Unfortunately, satyrs aren't that good. We don't really have satyrs. We have a very, very small number of satyrs to work with, so that Anthem and Haste effect we can't really take advantage of. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may discard a card at random to draw 2 cards. I mean, it's a good payoff for attacking with a bunch of creatures, I guess, but not having control of what you're sending to the graveyard in a color combination that doesn't just want to discard willy-nilly, I don't think. I don't know, it doesn't feel good. The Ghost of Ramirez de Petrio. Unfortunately, just not so great as a commander either. I mean, he can be blocked by creatures with toughness 3 or greater, so he can get through for damage. So there is that, but whenever the Ghost deals combat damage to a player, choose up to 1 target card in your graveyard that was discarded or put there from a library, and put that card into its owner's hand. I don't know. That seems like a lot of work. You have to get through. You have to reliably have a way of, attacking your opponents. And I don't know. I don't think you're really getting a lot of card advantage here. You would do better casting a divination, in my opinion. Here, same mana cost, get you 2 cards right away, and you don't have to work for it. Whereas when you look at the Ghost's combat damage trigger, it just seems like a lot of work because you have to find a way to put a card into your graveyard and then get that card back with the Ghost. I'm not feeling it. Lena, Selfless Champion. Mono Whites. Did Mono White even get a really good commander this year? I don't feel like they did, and Lena is an example of kind of what the problem is with White. So let's see what she does. She's a 3/3 for 6 mana, bad start. And when this enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each non-token creature you control. So she wants to go wide with tokens, but to generate the tokens, you need non-token creatures. And you can sacrifice Lena to have creatures with power less than her, and she only has 3 power, by the way, gain indestructible until end of turn. No. Possibly as a high-end card in the 99 of Teshar as a way to protect the board, but otherwise, no. No thanks. Livio. Now this has a lot of text. It's a 2/2 command. It's a 2/2 commander for 2 mana, which is pretty okay. I don't think it's good enough. So let's look at the abilities. Pay 2 mana, choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter. And then 3 mana and tap to return all exiled cards with an Aegis counter on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. That's a big mana investment to really take advantage of this kind of thing. If you wrap up to 5 mana and you manage to have him untapped and ready to go, then it might do some stuff because then it's essentially a slow blink. But 5 mana to blink a card is way too much. Yes, it has partner, it helps it a little bit, but again, I'm just really not feeling 5 mana blink or 7 mana blink 2. That's a big mana investment for a white commander, even with partner. And yet another mono white commander. Teranika, Acronian Veteran. 3/3 Vigilance for 3. Actually, that's decent. But here's the problem. Whenever she attacks, is it a he or a she? I'm not entirely certain. Looks like more of a he, in fact. But whenever he attacks, untap another creature you control, and until end of turn, that creature has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains indestructible. So to give the full benefit, it has to attack for another creature, and then it grants that other creature a base power and toughness of 4/4 and grants them indestructible. Again, not feeling it because that might better protect the other creature, but it doesn't protect Teranika. So I don't know. Don't think this is worth it. And I love Seb McKinnon. The only redeeming value of the Prismatic Piper is Seb McKinnon's art because, as always, amazing, very unique. His work really stands apart from anybody else in the game of all time. Probably the single most standout artist I think this game has ever seen. But that's all this card's got going for it. It's a 5 mana 3/3, so it's below curve. And its only ability is that it could be any color you choose at the beginning of the game. So unfortunately, it might have been necessary for the draft format in Commander Legends, but as a constructed commander, never ever. You're never going to choose Prismatic Piper. We have so many other partners now that you never need to choose the Prismatic Piper for anything. And that concludes the list. Hope we had some fun with that and some very honest opinions and what have you. And if there's anything that you feel got missed, either as a great commander from 2020 or a terrible commander from 2020, we got a comment section for that to sort of fill in the gaps, because we had a lot of commanders. You can't list them all. And whoops, 30 minutes. I think I better get going because my daughter's going to wake up any moment now. We'll see you all later. Enjoy the new year, and I'll see you again soon with a new deck. Bye.